Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are here for another episode of the Racing Debrief, and today we got some good races for you guys. But I just want to say we're dividing it into two separate recordings just to sort of make up time for tonight when the NASCAR Cup Series race ends. I just want to be able to talk about that, edit it, and upload it. So we're getting the F1 race, NASCAR Xfinity, and Truck Series race discussed right now. Then we'll cut to me again, but different, to talk about the Cup race. So, um, first of all, let's talk about the truck race. I guess we'll jump into that. Corey Heim won, I guess. The trucks are weird. The trucks, for me, this year haven't really been the series that I jump into being excited to watch. I feel like there's a lack of quality when watching that. I've just noticed that through like this season. Now it does switch for me. Sometimes I'm more invested in trucks than Xfinity. It goes back and forth between the two lower levels. But this year, last year, I noticed definitely more invested in Xfinity than in the truck series. So yeah, basically, I mean, it was cool to see the trucks race Mid Ohio race in the rain, but there was also a lot of spinning off, a lot of cautions. And the truck races, I don't mind when they have a one-off event, but I feel like the one-off events lack a lot for multiple reasons. I feel like when you don't have live pit stops, it's very strange. I'm not necessarily a fan of that. Fortunately, I was watching it behind, so I could fast forward through it. But when you watch it live, the non-competitive pit stops are kind of weird. It kind of takes an element from the race away. I mean, I get why they do it. It just feels like it takes away part of the race for sure. When they're just like, well, there's a caution for a stage, you can pit now. It's very weird. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I didn't mind it at like the Bristol Dirt when they were doing that, because they had a little bit of that for the Cup Series. There's moments they could pit or whatever. So that's different. Bristol Dirt, different animal. But when you're just talking about a road course race, to have non-competitive pit stops, I don't like. And I feel like the other part of it that takes away from when you're watching it is the Truck Series. Fox doesn't give a shit about once it comes to their half of the broadcast being done for Cup and Xfinity. They just have the announcers chilling in a studio in Charlotte watching it. So the truck broadcast could definitely use more work. I feel like Fox lacks behind the broadcast. I feel like it's definitely shifted in the past few years. I feel like NBC had the quality they always had there, but their announcing talent had to like work into it as a team. Now they're going on to year 9 as a team, as a broadcast, so it's definitely there. Fox gone through a lot of transition with it, and their quality has just dropped in general. So I feel like you see that shift, and especially when it comes to something like the trucks, that's always been a little lacking. So especially now, again, I feel like we can get into the whole broadcast. I think that there are overall higher quality with NBC, which is really sad because I used to love the Fox broadcast back in the day. And of course, Mike Joy is goated. So there's that. But I feel like when you look at something now, when you take away the Cup level of their broadcasting, when you go to something like trucks, it's just people talking. And definitely takes away from watching the trucks. I'll say that for sure. So yeah, that's my takeaway from trucks. Xfinity, we had one big crash there at Atlanta as you get at super speedways. It definitely just felt like a regular super speedway race where there was a single file line. It definitely felt different at Atlanta. I was looking through Reddit. A lot of people were talking about how the track's sort of losing its super speedway vibe. And that definitely is noticeable when you look at last year's March and July Xfinity races there to now. You definitely had a bigger pack last year, and it sort of slowly became more spread out. You still get the, the pack racing, but I think when people commented that it was kind of like early 2000s Super Speedways, and it definitely had that vibe. Cars getting more strung out. Uh, groups were smaller, and you had a more single car line. If you look back at a lot of those races, they would get spread out more in the early 2000s and become a line compared to just a straight pack race. So it's cool. I think it's interesting. I don't know if that's what NASCAR wants with the package there. I don't know if that's what SMI wanted with their reconfiguration. I think they wanted a super speedway without having to build one. Obviously, you can get one sort of cheap and get a little, hey, we're going to make this track into super speedway. Obviously, they're expensive to build, something like Daytona and Talladega. If you were to build a third version of that, yeah. So, I think that's what they're doing with Atlanta. Obviously, SMI wants to have that in their collection of tracks. So, it's interesting. I think that there will be more changes. I think they're going to try and get them to pack together still, but definitely is lacking in that. The end was exciting, though, with you had, who was running out of fuel. That was a very interesting element. John Hunter Nemechek was able to come through as a lot of the leaders, the top 2 or 3, they ran out of fuel. Everybody dropping back. Super chaotic at the very end of that. So I enjoyed the ending for sure. I think it's cool when you get fuel strategy. I feel that's something that we definitely lack at a lot of tracks just with the nature of stage racing. We definitely have lost the fuel strategy and the concern of that. So having that in there as an element is very cool. I like that. Alright, so later in the episode we will talk about the Cup race from Atlanta. Again, recording this after the F1 race, but before that. So we'll have that later on. But now let's jump to F1. Talk about the British Grand Prix. So we'll talk about qualifying first. As we did in the last episode, disappointed with Checo not making it out of Q1. That was very, very unfortunate. And just sets more precedent for maybe getting rid of him. Maybe we'll get a new driver in here. I think that, again, Red Bull is such a dominant car right now, such a dominant team. Max is doing his best at the front, winning all the races. I mean, him on his points is ahead of everybody else in constructors. But you need that second driver there. I'm sure Red Bull's disappointed to not be leaving a lot of these races with 2 podiums, 2 trophies. You want that. And when you have this car that's super dominant, 11 race wins in a row as a team. Only achieved one other time when McLaren did it, and I believe it was 1988 when they won 11 in a row. So, you go to the next race with potential to set the record for 12 in a row, but you're relying a lot on that one driver. You're relying on Max doing it all, and you need Checo there. Again, if the teams start to get closer, we've seen McLaren make a big jump. Lando Norris there, Oscar Piastri, they were in the front. They were running up there in a solid position. I don't think they were going to challenge for the win, but, Lando took the lead. He led a few laps. So, to have Paris qualify so bad, I don't know. You definitely need to have him at least start in the top 10. You don't have to say he has to qualify second, he has to finish second. But, you'd like that. But at least you got to qualify top 5. Top 10 at the minimum. But definitely top 5. You need him there. Car is fast enough. But even then, he got help from that safety car to jump from about 10th to 7th, I think. So, still not the most brilliant performance. He definitely struggles on tracks that aren't street circuits, for sure. All but one of his wins have came on street circuits. So, again, you got to have Checo perform better. Hopefully, you get a week off here, reset, go to Hungary, go to Belgium. Maybe a little better. Even if those aren't the best, you do have the summer break after that. And hopefully, when we're talking here at the end of August, track goes back performing well. Again, I touched on it though. 11 consecutive wins. That's brilliant. That's super, super awesome. Max winning 6 in a row. Only been done by a few drivers. So that's awesome to see. Can Max go for the all-time consecutive wins record himself? Of course, that is 9 by Sebastian Vettel. You got some good tracks for Max. You got Hungary, you got Belgium, you got Netherlands. Those are tracks that he's done well the last few years. I believe he won Hungary, Belgium, and Netherlands last year. He won Belgium in 21. Of course, that was the rain. He won Netherlands in 21. Belgium, who's in a good spot. Hungary, who's in a good spot in 21. Of course, Bottas did his bowling activities. So, Max has been good at those 3 tracks. I think that that's a good spot to be. I think it's doable. I don't really want to just dive in and say it's going to happen. But it seems doable. Those tracks are ones, again, Hungary and Belgium he pulled up last year. I think he went from 10th to 1st in Hungary and 14th to 1st in Belgium. So, and again, Netherlands he's been pretty good at. So, hopefully, I'd love to see it. But who knows? Anything can happen. So, there's that. Again, other drivers who touched on at McLaren, they pulled up. Very, very good to see McLaren up there. Awesome to see Lando on the podium. That was really, really cool. And Oscar Piastri getting 4th. It would have been cool if he got a podium. Would have been really cool to see a rookie driver on the podium. But, again, solid performance from McLaren. Those upgrades that they brought to the last race in Austria, Lando had him. He was out there performing pretty well. Oscar Piastri had a terrible race in Austria with the old parts on the car. You can see the difference in the upgrades to the non-upgrades. This race, again, qualifying in the front, 2nd and 3rd, finishing 2nd and 4th. I think Piastri could have probably got 3rd. The safety car really, really hurt him. That allowed Lewis to get ahead of him. And then again, the McLarens were on the hard tires compared to the softs that Lewis was on, so Piastri didn't really have a chance to go up and try to challenge him, but either way, it was brilliant. And Lando's defense against Lewis for those few laps when the hard tires were starting to come in, also really, really brilliant defense. The Williams did well in at least the practice sessions. Those cars were running well. That was cool. I think Albon got points, or he was close to the points if he didn't get him. But no, he had to be points. I think he was 8th. So, cool to see that. Would have been nice to see if he could get a little further up, but qualifying definitely hurt the Williams with the changeable conditions. Anything else to touch on? Oh, Ferrari. Throwing again, I guess. Minor throwing, but I don't really get what they did with Leclerc. Pitting him at the safety car. He was out on the hard tires. I think it would have been fine. You drop him a few spots. Didn't really move up. Sainz lost a bunch of spots. Wasn't the best race for Ferrari. But either way, that's going to be our F1 portion of this. So let's cut to Atlanta reactions for the Cup Series. All right, let's talk about Atlanta. Wild race. So exciting. I loved it. You had action all over the track. There was so much going on throughout the field. Drivers sliding around, of course, on the surface of the track. As it wears out, they're going to be sliding around more each year. The tracks in Atlanta tend to wear out quite a lot. I mean, the old surface was worn out very much. So, you get that at that track. And, yeah, it was just crazy. There was a lot of drivers, again, sliding around. A lot of contact between drivers. Few big incidents, but overall, brilliant race. The energy was there. I mean, you could tell on the broadcast. You could see it on the track. You just didn't know when the rain was going to come. That was the thing. A lot of it was, we'll get to halfway. Then it was, we'll get to the end of Stage 2, which was just about correct. We got done with Stage 2. A little bit of racing from there. And then it was over. But yeah, William Byron got the win. A little bit disappointing to see a driver that already got 3 wins this season get another one. Just for the overall interest of the championship, the playoffs. William Byron's obviously had a great season, so it's not against William Byron winning. I know there's a lot of William Byron won again. It's not necessarily that for me. I really don't care if a Hendrick driver won again or not, whatever, as long as it's not Chase Elliott. But it's more, at a track like Atlanta, you expect to get some maybe unexpected result. Brad Keselowski got a good run going. I was definitely hoping he'd get a win. Maybe Daytona will happen. But yeah, overall, just a exciting race. The beginning of it, Richard Childress driving the 29 car that Kevin Harvick won at Atlanta in 2001 with, and Kevin Harvick pulling up next to him. That was a cool moment to see. Definitely, seeing Kevin Harvick's car, old number 29, going around, him pull up with his current car. There's a lot of emotions that obviously I was too young to see that race, or remember it at least. But always being a fan of Kevin Harvick, just seeing that, and that's kind of like one of those moments that hits you like, this is it, this is the last season. So that part of it was interesting, emotional beginning to the race. Obviously knowing what that win represents to everybody that did watch that race also has a little bit more to it there. But yeah, that was cool. That was real special, for sure. So yeah, overall Atlanta was awesome. Great race. Again, I think that it put on a good show. I feel like Atlanta at night actually was awesome. I feel like there was moments of it that sort of brought in, a little bit more intensity than you've seen maybe the other previous Atlanta races in that configuration. I feel like the second race both years really was solid. But yeah, that's my take on the Atlanta race. Overall, exciting weekend of racing. And yeah, just a quick note, racing debrief next week will take place on a Tuesday. So just keep that in mind. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one.